Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be discussing how to move from Hosted Exchange to Office 365 today. So Hosted Exchange is our own SMS 2013 Exchange platform. So we're going to be discussing how we can migrate that to Office 365. My name is Martin. I'm the Technical Support Manager here at SMS. So we're just going to discuss a bit about the company now, just general info about the business. So we are a Microsoft Gold partner specialising in providing managed services for mid-market clients and SME. We've been established for well over 15 years now with a portfolio of around 4,500 clients, which is continuing to grow. We are holders of both ISO 9001 and 27701 certifications. We provide 24-hour, 7 days a week support, 365 days of the year for all the services that we provide and support. All our staff are UK based. We are ideally placed to offer IT advice to make you successful with your business, and we are here to also help you get the most out of services such as Azure, Microsoft 365 and Modern Workplace. So we're going to just discuss now what's an actual move or a migration, as it's actually called. So this is basically where you have your existing email platform, say on our Hosted Exchange 2013 platform, and then you move that to Office 365 to use the benefits of the subscription that you get with 365. Now, there's actually two ways that you can actually do this. So you could use the SMS Migration Service, or you could sort of go for a DIY approach, move the actual service yourself, which is harder because there's certain aspects that you need to do that. But we will be discussing both options today, so you can have a grips of what both options are available to you. So if you're going to use the SMS Migration Service, once you purchase the 365 package that you wish to take out, and it's actually been booked in with our migration team, what will happen then is the migration team will start the work on the day that it's booked in. They will actually do everything for you in regards to creating all your mailboxes, groups, aliases, any sort of special configuration if you've got like Ultravolt, that kind of thing. They will actually do all that for you. Now they will need access to your domain's DNS, and this is DNS is basically how your domain works, so how services work on your domain. It's things like websites and email specifically. So basically, we would contact you in the morning, or usually morning, late morning, with an email saying we need you to add the following details to your domain. If you have trouble with that, and you can provide us with login access, then we can make them changes for you. All customers that have their domain with SMS, then we won't need to contact you regarding this. We will just make them changes for you, and then basically email you once all the work's been completed and what you need to do next. You'll get an email with steps on it. You just need to follow each step. There's 4 steps on the message that you get. Follow each step, and then you'll be up and running basically. And that's basically the migration, the service itself. The only impact that you will have to do yourself would be is reconfiguring things like Outlook and any devices like phones, that kind of thing. But the bulk of the work is done by our migration team in-house here. So we're now going to move on to move your service yourself, so like a DIY approach. And there is several steps involved in this, so you just need to be mindful of each one basically. So once the service has been purchased and it's actually available on your account, you will be sent like an admin login details to your 365 account. Now, the first thing that you'll need to do is get a list of all the mailboxes that you currently have from our SMS portal. Now, on screen, you can see just a diagram just of what the actual menu looks like inside the SMS portal. So once you're inside there and you've gone into your services of Microsoft Email, under the Hosted Exchange menu, you'll see an option that says Export Info. By going into that and clicking on everything, because there's several buttons, we click on everything, that will download a CSV that includes all your mailboxes, aliases, groups, and domains that you're using. You need to keep this safe somewhere, because you will need it later on to actually use to import the data into 365. If you've only got one mailbox, then I would probably recommend not doing this. I'd probably just recommend just copy and pasting, or just manually just type in the addresses when you're going to move on to creating the mailboxes on 365. So basically, once that's been done, the next stage would be you would need to verify the domain. Now, domain verification is effectively where you prove you own the domain to prevent you adding anything, basically. So this is done by adding a TXT record to your domain's DNS. which is earlier just mentioned. Your DNS is how your domain works. Without it, email won't work. So you'd add a text record similar to what's on screen. So it's an MS equals MS and then a number. Each text record is unique to each domain. So if you're going to add 10 domains, there'd be 10 different text records that you'd have to add. And they're all different, and they have to be the same one as what it corresponds with. So once you've added them, basically what you can do then is, in the updated, you can then click verify and the domain will verify. Now this option where you add the domains is in the admin portal under admin, then settings, and then domains. And the link on screen is the direct link to the admin portal. So what you'll be ready to do now is you'll be ready once the domain's verified. You'll still be in the admin portal. So what you'll need to do then is you would need to go under users and active users, and then you'll have two options that you face to add in users. So you have adding the users separately, or you have added multiple users. Obviously, if you've only got one user, then you just add it separately because you don't need to do a mass import. If you've got more than that, then I would recommend doing the multiple user way because it's a lot easier in regards to importing them. You've just got to make sure, as we'll discuss shortly, you actually put the right details in the CSV, otherwise it won't work, it'll fail. Like I say, this can be accessed within the admin portal under users and active users. Now, if you're going to add them separately, then this is the screen that you're going to get. So you need to fill the details in, then the first, last name, and then display name, and then your username would be the first part of the email address, and then you specify the domain that you have, because if you've got more than one, then you have to make sure you select the right one, and then you'll see some tick options below that. We always recommend using automatically create password. This will create an auto-generated password, and we also recommend clicking the require the user to change it on first sign-in. This allows them to change it to something that they will remember, and something obviously that's secure to them basically. And there is the option to send that a copy of that password to an email address as well. Once that's completed, you then need to specify the license that you purchased for that user, and then the next screen you'll get will be optional information. This is where you can specify what roles they want. If it's just a general user, you can ignore it because you don't need to give them any higher permissions or elevated permissions. So permissions are in regards to, you want them to be a global administrator or a user administrator or a password administrator, SharePoint administrator if you have SharePoint, or Teams, for example. So you can specify that on that screen. You can also specify some further details like what office they're in, what department, that kind of thing. There is the option to do that. And then each case of finishing, the summary screen will basically just say the username and the password, and then you click finish. 15 minutes later, that mailbox is ready to be signed into. So the next way would be to add multiple users. Now this one's a bit more trickier because you've got to make sure that the data that you put in here is going to be accurate. So you click the add multiple users option, and then there is now two options to do this. So you can either copy and paste the details into the boxes as you can see on screen, and then add additional rows, how many users, and then continue it. Or the best option would be to tick the box that says I'd like to upload a CSV. Now you can't use the same CSV that you exported from our portal. You have to download the 14365. Now there is a link on that screen that will actually say download an empty CSV template. You download that, and then you have to copy and paste the information from the CSV that you downloaded from us into the 14365, making sure that you put each detail in the right column for each part of it. So that is a key. If you don't put it in the right column, or you put an address in the list where the domain isn't on 365, you will get an error message saying there's an error here, and then you've got to try and figure out where that problem might be basically. So once you've saved the CSV for 365, there's an option to upload it, and then you click next, and then you can assign which license you can. Now the license is dependent on what plans you have. So if you were if you've got, say for example, 10 users that have got plan 1s and you've got 10 users that have got standard, we probably recommend that you create two separate CSVs for 365 and upload them separately, because you can't add different licenses in the same CSV. So you have to basically, it'll either allow you to add all or nothing basically. So you'd have to have multiple files, which may get confusing if you've got more than 2 or 3 different types of licenses. You'd have to be mindful of that, that's all. And then once you've done that, that and you've added the users, the final screen will give you the option to download a list of all the passwords that's just been created. If you've because obviously it's going to generate an automatic password, and then you can just keep that for future use, basically. So if you have any aliases on your account, which some of our customers do, some customers have a few, some have quite a few, then you will need to add them back as well, because otherwise they'll stop working. So all the aliases basically is an alternative address to your address. For example, your email address could be your first name at the domain, but you might have an alias of your first dot last name on your account, or you might have support at, or you might have info at, for example. They are all tag forms of aliases, so they will need to be re-added back, and they have to be done inside users, active users. Click on the user, select manage user and email, and then you effectively type it into the username field and making sure you select the correct domain if it's on multiple domains, and then saving the changes. This can be done by PowerShell. That is for more advanced users, because if you change something in PowerShell that you're not sure about, then it can effectively break 365 setup altogether. PowerShell, for people that aren't aware, there is a scripted way of doing changes and administering Office 365, as Office 365 has full PowerShell access. And also as well with PowerShell, you can do mass imports. So you've got a lot of aliases, for example. You could create a script that will mass import them without having to manually put them in each time. So the next thing is going to be groups. If any of you are using distribution groups with 2013 currently, then you can add them back by going to the teams and groups option, then active teams and groups. You add a group, and the type of group will be distribution, because all our groups on 2013 are distribution groups. And then it's a case of putting the name and the description of the group. Then it's the address that you want to use for that. It's the same one. Select the right domain and make sure that you tick the option for external access, which basically means it can be emailed externally outside of your domain. So if you've got it for, say, support at, for example, if you don't check that box, anyone emailing externally, like clients, for example, it will just get rejected. So you have to make sure that's ticked. And then it's creating group. It takes about 15 minutes to become live. But once it does, you refresh the screen, you can then go back into the group, go into the members tab and add all the members of that group who wants to receive email for that address. You just need to make sure that's done as well. That also can be done by PowerShell. If you can script it and import it that way as well. I say that is a advanced way of doing it, but if you've got a lot of groups, that might be your only option really to get them back in. So there is some additional configurations that we do need to make people aware of as well when they're doing their own move, because if these are forgotten, it will cause issues. So if you're using things like full access, SANDAS, send on behalf of, even forwarding, then that has to be reinstated back into 365 from 2013. So you would need to go into the portal and go into each user and assign the permissions from the mail tab and add the forwarding if there's any forwarding in place. You also need to make sure if you're using any contacts which are shared within the global address list, which means when they go to the address list, all the users can see external contacts such as suppliers and things like that. They need to be reinstated, because if you, for whatever reason, you have a distribution group, say called suppliers, and that's actually going to external people from your domain, so all your suppliers directly, you need to make sure that them contacts are added back in order to add them as members. Otherwise, you can't add them as members. So just be mindful of that. And the only other thing that you need to be made aware of as well, all the customers that are using UltraVault service, which is the journaling service that we provide, that will basically save a copy of every every in and outbound mail basically to an external vault. You need to raise a support request with our support team in order for us to add the configuration back in place on Office 365. If you don't do this, it won't be added, and obviously we can't be held responsible if the journaling stops working. So you just need to be you just need to remember to contact us regarding that, so we can put that in place and confirm it's in place. This also goes for any third-party journal rules that you have, because I know we do have customers that are using things like HR systems, recruitment systems that do journal to external systems. They also need to be in place as well, because if you forget to add them, then we won't be aware of it, and we will. Obviously, we don't know about it. We won't add them for you, so we just need to make us aware, and then we can add them going forward for you. So once all that's been done, and you're in a position where you've created your mailboxes and you've done your aliases groups and any additional configuration, you're now going to want to export all your data from Outlook. So this will apply to all users. So all users will need to go into Outlook and export it. So whether it's PST or OM or whichever, if you're on a Mac or PC, that'll have to be exported. Export time can vary depending on basically depending on how much data and how many items you've got and how many folders you've got. Once you've exported it, you do need to keep that somewhere safe, whether that's along your local machine or on an external hard drive, because you will need that later to re-import that data. But once you've got that file, then generally, if you've got a lot of data, it will be quite large, the actual file size itself. So once that's been done, you'll be then ready to do your DNS changes. And as mentioned earlier, DNS is the way that your domain works. Without it, it won't work. So the only way that you can do this is with your existing DNS provider, so your registrar, website provider, maybe maybe website designer, someone like that. But you need to ensure that you delete both the MX record that's in place and SRV record. If you do not do this and leave the MXs in place, you will get sporadic email. So you need to make sure that they are removed, and the SRV record needs to be removed because that's what's used to set up Outlook. And on 365, it uses a CNAME record to do the auto discovery. So you need to make sure that's removed. All the DNS records can be found from settings domains. Then click on the domain, and then there is an option that will show you all the records that you need to add, and they need to be added exactly how they're displayed. Once they are done, then it's a case of clicking next, and it will confirm if they're correct or not, and it will then be complete. Any customers with SMS domains or we manage the DNS, open a support ticket, and we will then do them changes for you. One thing we need to make you aware of, if you are using DNS with future spam, so if you're a future spam customer, so you're using our advanced anti-spam service, there is some changes that need to be made into the text record and MX records. So you will currently have MX 1 to 4 on your domain. Now, you don't delete the MX records on a future spam domain. You would have to add a 5th MX record for the Office 365 one. And this is purely for in the event that, say, future spam went down, you've got a 5th MX record to effectively stop your email going down. Email flow would continue to work if the future spam server ever had an issue, for example. You also need to make an amendment to the TXT/SPF record, because you will currently have one that points to the future spam service. So it will have everycloudtech.com as an example in there. That needs to be amended, so it has that in it, as well as your Office 365 host name as well. Also need to make you aware, if you're using any other service such as contact forms on websites, mail services that do bulk mailing, or anything that requires an SPF record modification, you need to also make sure that the host names or IPs are included in your SPF record when you make the changes to it. If you don't do that, them services may stop working, and we do see that. So you just need to be mindful of that. You need to make sure they are amended correctly. But once they are being done, all the other DNS records that are displayed on the wizard are still applicable. They have to still all be added. And once DNS has been added, it could be anything from an hour to 24 hours for them to basically update. Be very, very careful with the MX records, because if you get them wrong, some servers around the planet they'll cache them if they're incorrect, for example, and it could take 2 days for your email service to be reinstated. So we just need to make people aware of that. So once the DNS is updated, you can then move on to setting up your devices and Outlook. So if you've opted for a temporary password, you will need to sign into portal.office.com in order to update the password. Now, on 365, all accounts now have what's known as security defaults enabled. So the first option you could be prompted for when you log in is to set up the Microsoft Authenticator. And this is just a way of securing your account with what's known as multi-factor authentication. So you'll need to go through the wizard, set that up, and download the app to your phone to configure that. But once it's configured, it will ask you to change the password to something else, and you need to put the old password in, or the temporary password, and then your new one in. And then once that's been done, your mailbox is then ready to be set up on all your devices. You will need to remove your account from any devices that you've got set up, such as phones, tablets, because you can't have the same account twice. And if you've got multiple accounts inside Outlook, it's recommended that you create a brand new profile and then re-add your accounts back to it, because we've seen that in some versions of Outlook, it can have issues changing the default account to another one. And then when you try and remove your account, it won't allow you to. So the only way around it is to create a new profile. And all the set of information for Outlook devices, and if you've got plans that come with the Office software on how to download them, can be found on our knowledge base at smshelp.co.uk. So you'll be now ready to do the data import. So once all that's been done, the data import will be ready. So basically, this is a case of going into Outlook, getting your file, and importing it back in. Once the import's been processed, the upload stage can take anything from a few hours to, we have seen it take a few days as well for people that have done this manually. So we just need to make you aware that Outlook may be unresponsive and not up to date whilst this is going through. This doesn't mean there's a problem with the import. It's just that it's obviously uploading a lot of data if you have a lot of data, and it takes time for it to process. So you just need to leave Outlook open until it says all folders are up to date or Outlook is up to date. Once that's happened, you'll know anyway, because you'll get an influx of mail coming in. So you'd have to use webmail while the data import was going through at outlook.office.com, where you can communicate as normal through that. So just need to make you aware of that. So I'm just going to summary what we've discussed. So basically, if you're looking for the easiest option to migrate your 2013 platform to Office 365, we would recommend using our migration service, because we do the majority of the work. The only bit that you need to do is set up your devices, and that's basically it, and tweak the DNS if we can't get access to it. That's the only bit that you need to do. So we will create all your mailboxes, we'll do any aliases, groups, all that configuration we will do, and it will obviously be verified and everything. So it'll be, so it'll be work in order. We do offer throughout the year promotions on things like free migrations and things like that. So the best thing to do would be call sales. They'll be able to give you more details on what promotions they're on at the time when you call. That is by far obviously the best option. However, if you want to do it on a DIY approach and do it yourself, that is available. That's not a problem. You can do that, but we just need to make you aware it is much harder, as we've just discussed, on the process that you have to do. And it obviously, if something happens and breaks, it's then going to need to be diagnosed and find out where the problem is, and that's obviously going to delay your move, and you could face further complications. That's basically. So we do have some FAQs that we put together, because these are some of the common questions that we get asked whilst we're doing migrations, and obviously some customers have asked in support. So which versions of Office are supported in Microsoft 365 / Office 365? So Microsoft supports all mainstream supported Outlook versions as per their typical life cycle. So these include Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise and business, and Office 2019 and 2016. If you're using 2013, 2010, or even 2007, they are no longer supported and you will not be able to use them. Now, if you get a plan that comes with Office, such as standard, then you're fine, because you can just effectively remove your old version, install the new one, and as long as you keep paying the subscription, you're going to get the latest version of Office when they release new versions, basically. You do have the option to buy it standalone. However, you aren't going to get the updates, basically the new versions of Office every few years when they bring them out. You'll get security updates, but you won't get anything else. So it might be more costly to do that. It might be it will be cheaper to buy through ourselves, because then you get guaranteed to get an up-to-date version all the time, basically. So will I still have access to my old SMS mailboxes? You will have access to your old mailboxes whilst the migration is going through. Now this applies for both manual and us doing it. However, if you're doing it yourself, you will need to notify us, because you'll have to advise us that you want to cancel your old plans. And also, we always recommend that if you've done it yourself, we always recommend that you email us a few days after your migration, that you've done the DIY approach, when you're happy with it, basically, and ask us to delete the old mailboxes, because there has been occasions where if they're not removed, sometimes some mail can still go to them old mailboxes, because there's some servers that have still got the old records cached, for example, as an example. So we always recommend that you reach out to us and just say, I've moved my mailboxes, could you delete my old ones? And then we will delete them for you, and that won't have any issues. Also, if you don't notify us of cancelling them, you will continue to be charged for them. Do SMS provide a data migration service? So for the DIY approach, we do provide a data migration service, should you wish to take that out for a fee. If you contact sales, they'll be able to give you the pricing of that, how much that will cost to move the data from 2013 to Office 365. So will there be any downtime? So there won't be any downtime. But effectively, it will just work as normal. The only thing you'll notice is once the DNS changes have gone through, you will start noticing new email go into 365, and even some existing mail will go there. And you might only notice a few dribs and drabs coming through on the old system until it eventually stops. Now, once that basically happens, you can then effectively configure Outlook. Now, you can configure Outlook beforehand, which isn't going to cause any issues, but there'll be no downtime in regards to your email stops working. So as long as you basically follow the guides that we provide and set everything up, and your DNS is correct, then there'll be no issues whatsoever with any downtime. However, if there is any issues to the DNS that you've made, it could potentially cause, especially if you get the MX record wrong, for example, you could have 2 days where your email service goes down if you're doing it yourself. Just need to make you aware of that. That's one benefit by using our service, that will ensure that doesn't happen, basically. So when do my old mailboxes get deleted using the migration service? So typically what happens is once the migration is complete, and we've notified you, your mailboxes get disabled, so no further action can be taken on them, and then they're held for 5 working days, and after 5 working days, they are deleted from the old system altogether. So you have a 5-day window to make sure you're happy with everything, you've got all the data that you need. We will confirm the data has all moved across, but you get that 5-day window where you can basically just make sure everything is okay. So I'm having problems setting up everything after following your guides. Do you provide remote assistance? So are the people out there that have followed the guides and they really are struggling, and they're not, and they're really struggling even if they're callers and they're just not getting it and they just want someone to do it for them? Yes, we do offer a remote assistance service via our professional service offering. This is a chargeable service, and it has to be booked in as well, basically for time that suits yourself. And then we can get that booked in. We do them during office hours only, but like I say, that is an option available should you want to take that out for the fee, and then sales will be able to advise further on that one. And there is one last question. This is not really regarding the migration as such, but it is a question we've started to see more often. Does Office 365 support DKIM and DMARC? Now, 2013 doesn't at the moment, and it's not going to. It's not going to support DKIM anyway. So basically, DKIM and DMARC is one of them sort of systems that's in place for preventing against things like spoof email, spam attacks. It makes sure that the mail that you're sending is coming from the destination, the server that it says it's coming from. Now, 365 is fully supported on both DKIM and DMARC. By default, all migrations that we do part of our service, we enable this by default. It's a part of the process that we do. It does require additional DNS records. DKIM requires 2 CNAME records, and DMARC requires a text record to be in place. If you're doing the DIY approach, open a ticket with us and we will generate your unique DKIM records, because they're unique per domain, and we'll give you the DMARC record. Once you've done that, it needs to be enabled via you can do it 2 ways. You can either do it via PowerShell, or you can do it via the admin center under security, and then it's in policies, and then it's under DKIM to enable it. Once that's been enabled, it'll just basically start working. So these are some contact details. So if you want to take out the migration service for 2013 to Office 365, which obviously I'm going to recommend that you do that, because that is the easiest approach and less stressful for people. Then please call 01925 818 448, and our sales team will be happy to help you with that and get you that arranged, get that booked in when time suits yourself. If you've got any technical questions that you want to ask prior to calling sales, you're just not quite sure on something, then please ring our support team on 01925 818 252. And our website is simplymailsolutions.com. The support site again is smshelp.co.uk. Please follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. We do post updates on there when the next webinars are coming out, and obviously promotions that we're doing and further information about the company. And for all our webinars that we've been doing and YouTube channel links, they are on simplymailsolutions.com/webinars, where you'll find all the content that we've been doing on these webinars for the last couple of years. So I hope this has been informative for everyone. I hope people have enjoyed watching today. My name's been Martin. It's been a pleasure presenting today. Hope to speak to you all soon. Bye for now.